This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Monday, April 28th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Just a beautiful day on the way. Sunshine, high 74. Tonight and overnight, clear, low 55. And even warmer for Tuesday. Sun, clouds, high 79. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 52 and clear in Smithtown out on Long Island. 46 and clear in Edison over in New Jersey, and it's 54 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
An off-duty cop is shot in Queens. That New Jersey wildfire growing. A mystery to solve in Manalapan. A local bakery asking customers to lay off the cologne. And it's a good time to be a Knicks fan. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. 2 men in custody after an off-duty cop shot Sunday morning in Astoria.
Police say the suspects were apprehended shortly after the 25-year-old cop was apparently ambushed at around 6:30 a.m. near 43rd Avenue and 21st Street. The New York Post quotes sources as saying the injured officer was taken to the hospital with a graze wound to the leg and is expected to be okay. The cop has not been identified. There's been no word as to a motive for the shooting. Larry Kofsky, NBC News Radio.
In the last few moments, we do have a motive. It was robbery, apparently, and they ambushed that police officer. Thank God, apparently they did not have good aim, and he's just dealing with a graze wound this morning. How about those Knicks? Let's talk about something happy for a second. Did you catch the last or even the whole game? I caught the fourth quarter of the game against Detroit yesterday. They came flying back. They beat the Pistons 94-93. Now one game away from moving on in the playoffs. Jalen Brunson, who went down hard in the second half, came back 32 points. Knicks coach Tom Thibodeau, all excited about the team.
Playoff wins are tough. It's hard to get them. We didn't have much going our way to start the fourth and dug down and found a way to win in the end. A lot of tough plays, guys stepping up, Cat hitting the big shots, Jalen big shots.
If you've been following New York all season, you might have thought, are they even going to get by Detroit? They had not played a great second half of the season. But now, I mean, they have me and the fans who were outside. Did you see all the fans outside the arena, outside of Madison Square Garden? The game was in Detroit, but there were a lot of people outside MSG watching the game.
Mikhail's defense, OG's defense, Josh's hustle plays, the rebounds. We needed everybody and just find a way to win. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah, Josh Hart grinding out the big game for the Knickerbockers.
They were great pace. We got to stop defensively. We were hooping. And then came out stagnant. It's the second game in a row that we came out in the third quarter stagnant. We got to learn from it. Third quarter, the last couple of games have been inexcusable, but
came back.
We'll take the win, and now we got another one on Tuesday we got to focus on.
Yeah, I'm all excited about Tuesday's game. The Pistons can be pushed out of the series, out of the playoffs Tuesday night here back at Madison Square Garden. Overseas overnight, Yemen's Houthi rebels claiming a U.S. airstrike hit a prison that was holding African migrants, killing at least 68, wounding 47 others. Now, we're getting zero confirmation from the U.S. that this actually took place. The U.S. Military Central Command putting out a statement early today before the alleged attack broke, but they haven't put anything out since, saying that they will continue to do with their policy of offering no specific details of its extensive airstrike campaign, especially in that area. But the Houthi rebels claiming a U.S. airstrike overnight hit that prison, killing 68, wounding 47. Of course, as more details on this breaking story come into the news center, we'll pass it on to you. Terrible weekend in Vancouver, Canada. Police police now say 11 are dead after a car plowed into a crowded street festival in Vancouver Saturday night. The deputy police chief says the 30-year-old behind the wheel being held pending charges in the case.
I can also tell you that the person we have in custody does have a significant history of interactions with police and healthcare professionals related to mental health.
Yeah, so here's what we can tell you right away. They say this is not terror related, that individual has a mental health issue. Investigators say dozens of people seriously injured when this black SUV drove into a packed celebration at a Filipino block party. At a news conference yesterday, they talked about the fact that some of these people are still in critical condition today. The Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, offering his sympathies to the families.
While I'm not prepared to speak about the potential motive, I can now say with confidence that the evidence in this case does not lead us to believe this was an act of terrorism. We believe dozens more are injured, some seriously, and the number of dead could rise in the coming days or weeks.
Just awful story out of Canada. 5:05. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine needs to happen soon. He was on Meet the Press yesterday, says the U.S. may decide this week whether it will continue to mediate the peace process at all.
This week is going to be a really important week in which we have to make a determination about whether this is an endeavor that we want to continue to be involved in.
And Rubio says President Trump has helped bring the two sides closer than they have been in years to a deal, but he says there's still a good ways to go. And he says the U.S. is reluctant to impose sanctions or other consequences on the parties involved because it could jeopardize the deal altogether.
But we want to see it happen. There are reasons to be optimistic, but there are reasons to be realistic, of course, as well. We're close, but we're not close enough. Well, I think they're closer in general than they've been any time in the last 3 years, but it's still not there.
Now, what was interesting about seeing Marco Rubio on the news shows was they put Russia's foreign minister on the news shows yesterday. He was on Face the Nation, the foreign minister, talking about, his name is Sergei Lavrov. He was echoing, for the most part, what Marco Rubio was saying, claiming the Trump administration has made an effort to learn what Russia's goals are. And he says that's a good thing because it does get him closer to some sort of ceasefire deal.
And he said that nobody in Washington lifted a finger to do the same, to try to understand Russia during the Biden administration.
Mm-hmm. Of course, Lavrov says Russia is pursuing its own national interests, but that doesn't mean they can't come to an agreement to end the fighting.
He publicly said that they better understand the Russian position and the reasons for what is going on. Whenever those national interests do not coincide, and this is in most of the cases, this difference should not be allowed to degenerate into confrontation.
WABC News Time 5:09. The U.S. and Iran are set to hold another round of nuclear talks after a weekend meeting in Oman.
The White House described Saturday's talks as positive and productive. President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, and Iran's foreign minister led the two delegations, with the discussions lasting about 4 hours. The talks come after a massive chemical explosion in a major Iranian port killed at least 8 people and injured hundreds more. The next meeting is scheduled to take place in Oman on May 3rd. I'm Brian Shook.
Down to Washington at 5:09. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer criticizing President Trump after allegations his administration deported an American child without due process. Schumer was on CNN's State of the Union, says the administration's violating the rule of law and Americans are not happy.
This is not the only instance. There are reportedly other instances where U.S. citizen children were deported without any due process.
So Schumer making the comments after a Louisiana judge ruled that a 2-year-old U.S. citizen was deported to Honduras with no due process. Schumer asked about the possibility of impeaching Trump over this, but it said it's too soon to decide. That, of course, they don't control either the House or the Senate, so it would be essentially impossible. Here he was talking more about this child.
Due process is a hallmark of what our country is all about, rule of law, and ICE and Trump seem to break it in every single way. Right now, President Trump is violating rule of law in every way, and we're fighting him every single day.
Democrats pushing back in Washington, at least trying to. You have these Democrats who are not in D.C. saying those Democrats in Washington are not doing enough to fight the Trump White House. One of them is Illinois Governor Pritzker. He's taking shots at what he calls do-nothing Democrats for ceding power to Republicans. He gave a speech last night in New Hampshire, which suggests that he might be running for president. The governor urged the Democratic Party to fight against the Trump administration hard.
Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now.
Yeah, so his speech fueling speculation that he's considering a run for president in 2028. So are a lot of other people. 511, President Trump's tariffs apparently impacting more and more small businesses like this bridal shop that's right outside Chicago. David Gafke owns Complete Bridal. He says 90% of his dresses come from China, and they're now subject to a 145% tariff, which he says he's passing on to customers because he's got no choice.
We have to call 211 clients and ask them for more money for tariffs. That's $65,000. We're a small store. We can't absorb that.
Over the weekend, the president said he would keep the tariffs in China on place until the Chinese make a deal that is more fair to the U.S. Meanwhile, a new national poll reveals a significant drop in President Trump's popularity less than 100 days into his presidency.
The NBC News Stay Tuned poll found 55% of Americans disapprove of how Trump has handled the presidency, while 45% approve. On immigration, one of his strongest issues during the 2024 election, the poll found just over half disapprove of his policies, while only 49% approve. Meanwhile, the economy proved to be his weakest issue, with only 39% satisfied with his economic agenda and 61% voicing their opposition. Overall, 60% of those surveyed said they believe the U.S. is on the wrong track, while 40% say it's on the right one. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
WABC News Time 512. A leaked White House memo suggesting that the Trump administration might be defunding one of the services from the 988 Suicide Prevention Lifeline.
A memo dated April 10th indicates that the LGBTQ plus youth subnetwork could be eliminated. Mental health and LGBTQ advocacy groups are among those criticizing the possible action, which would take effect on October 1st. A 2024 survey by suicide prevention advocacy group The Trevor Project shows that nearly 40% of LGBTQ plus youth had considered suicide, and more than 10% had attempted suicide. I'm Brian Shook.
513 watching this yesterday, a large-scale DEA raid resulting in more than 100 arrests and an illegal Colorado Springs nightclub. DEA Special Agent in charge, Jonathan Pullen, sends undocumented immigrants, illegal aliens, active duty service members among all those who were detained over the weekend.
We seized a number of guns in there. We had active duty service members who were running security at the club and involved in some of these crimes.
Yeah, so he says pink cocaine, other drugs, weapons, evidence of prostitution at this underground nightclub. Many of those taken into custody were turned over to ICE. The Army Criminal Investigation Division, they're looking into the involvement of roughly a dozen U.S. service members who were apparently detained at the same nightclub over the weekend.
It's obviously concerning to have active duty military involved. We're working with our partners at Army CID on that piece.
Poland says both the illegal immigrants and active duty U.S. service members were detained.
We had over 100 illegal aliens inside as well, and those over 100 illegal aliens were taken into custody by ICE.
514, of course, over the weekend, Pope Francis laid to rest. Did you watch any of the service? You had to be up early. It started at 4 in the morning. Of course, you could watch the rewind on it. Pope Francis laid to rest. New Yorkers were at the funeral at St. Peter's Square in Vatican City.
The rituals, the Latin chants, rest in peace, requiem aeternam. It's very special to be here for that.
Yeah, the funeral procession traveled to Rome's Basilica of St. Mary Major. Hundreds of thousands lined the route on Saturday. Francis did not want a lavish burial that has become traditional for popes, and he traveled his body in an open-air hearse-style truck. He wished to be buried at St. Major instead of the crypt at St. Peter's Basilica.
Around so many people, you feel connected in some way. I think it's a pretty solemn day for us. Sad, but hopeful.
We now entrust the soul of our beloved pontiff to God. The guiding thread of his mission was also the conviction that the church.
It was interesting to watch it if you were up that early to see the service. In a moment, we're going to find out what's next for the picking the next leader of the Catholic Church. Of course, the conclave of the cardinals will begin. It's expected to start sometime next week, and we'll get some insight from a former archbishop about what goes on behind closed doors. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, which is all the way in Jerusalem this morning. Good morning, Justin Alec.
Hey, good morning to you, Noam Layden. You got me loud and clear over there, Noam Layden. How about it?
I hear you loud and clear. Why, you can't hear me?
No, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
We're just, when you're all the way across the world like this, you got to make sure you can make out your O's and your U's, all your vowels, all that good stuff. But
you could probably. Do you have a button that hikes up your microphone a little bit? That could be a little hot.
That is all the way up.
Oh, it is okay. Just making sure. Then I'm going to lean in so I can hear your report.
All right. Well, hopefully everybody else can hear me as well. We'll start here with the NBA out in Detroit. Karl Anthony Towns made a go-ahead three-pointer with 46 seconds left, and he finished with 27 points. Jalen Brunson had 32 and 11, and the Knicks beat the Pistons 94-93 to take a 3-1 lead in their first-round playoff series. Tim Hardaway Jr. shot a three-pointer just before the buzzer and drew some contact from New York's Josh Hart. That wasn't called a foul at the end of a physical game with very few whistles. David Guthrie, the crew chief for the game, said afterward that the officials made a mistake. Quote, after post-game review, we observed that Hart makes body contact that is more than marginal to Hardaway Jr. and a foul should have been called. Guthrie said had that foul been called, Hardaway would have gone to the foul line for 3 free throws that could have given Detroit the lead. Instead, the Knicks held on to win after rallying from an 11-point deficit in the fourth quarter. Game 5 is Tuesday from New York to the MLB here out in Washington.
By the way, Justin, I don't know if you saw because you were in Israel, but the Lakers were playing Minnesota, and the game ended the exact same way. LeBron had fouled, I can't remember who, with like no time on the clock, essentially.
Yeah.
And they reviewed it, and sure enough, they saw the foul, and Minnesota won. So now they're up 3-1 against the Lakers.
And I don't know if you were watching that Nuggets game either, but Aaron Gordon with that putback buzzer, that was as close as I've ever seen anything.
It was a great weekend of basketball.
It really, really was. A lot of exciting games back and forth all weekend long. On the diamond as well, some exciting baseball to get to. The Mets losing a tight one yesterday, 8-7 to the Nationals out in D.C. And the Yankees.
Can I interrupt you again? They were up
7-1
at one point in that game.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't watch the whole game. Yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah, they lost 8-7.
Blew a 6-run lead.
They did, yeah.
Man, that is no bueno for the Metsies. We'll see if they can bounce back. Series finale is tonight, I believe, for those Mets 4-game set there with the Nationals. And the Yankees, they had a doubleheader yesterday. They swept the Blue Jays in that doubleheader. They win game 1, 11-2, and they win game 2, 5-1. That is your Sports Know, man. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com.
WABC News Time 5:21. We were talking about Pope Francis, who was laid to rest over the weekend. The process of picking the next leader of the Catholic Church now can get underway. Retired Los Angeles Archbishop Roger Mahoney was in the last 2 conclaves for Popes Benedict and Pope Francis. He says those votes went really fast, but he says he doesn't expect the same thing will happen this time around.
And so I'm hoping during these days and next week, these meetings with everybody and listening. Of course, as always, the most important thing at these meetings, the 30-minute coffee hour. I mean, that's when people get to know each other really well.
This is the interesting part is they really, why would the College of Cardinals know each other that well? They live all over the world. So a date for the conclave has not been officially set, but is expected to be during the week of May 5th. And so the same Archbishop, Roger Mahoney, says he's watching this closely to try to figure out any signs of who they're leaning towards.
Remember the Cardinal Dean's on his computer. There are no computers allowed. The Holy See puts a whole thing of rays on that building. Nothing gets in or out. There's no cell phone that works. Nothing works.
Yeah. So the whole world, of course, will be watching. Black smoke means no decision has been made. White smoke means they've picked the new pontiff. And again, it looks like it'll begin the week of May 5th. Mark Fayfield in the 522 has a look at the latest health news.
The USDA is warning Mexico it will stop animal imports into the U.S. due to a fear of flesh-eating parasites. The threat was issued by Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins in a letter to the country. The screwworm is a parasite at large which targets fresh wounds in warm-blooded animals. Some of those animals include cattle, bison, and horses. Rollins says imports from Mexico will be prohibited to protect the interests of the U.S. agriculture industry if they fail to combat the spread of the screwworm. Cigarette smoking in the U.S. keeps declining, driven mainly by young adults. Researchers at UC San Diego found the most significant drops are in states with historically high smoking rates. However, the slower decline among adults over 50 may prolong the public health burden of smoking-related diseases. Next, researchers expect national smoking prevalence to fall below 5% by 2035, though the high rates of smoking-related illnesses will take longer to decrease. And the CDC says there are nearly 900 confirmed cases of measles across 10 states. Health Update, I'm Mark Mayfield.
WABC News Time 523. Peak fire season is just around the corner in California, just that after the devastating Los Angeles fires a couple months back. The governor there, Gavin Newsom, says the state's doing everything it can do to prepare for the season, considering everything that's happened so far.
$2.5 billion has been invested. Over 2,200 projects have been completed or are underway.
Yeah, so he's put this campaign of commercials out on the tube there, letting people know that they're doing everything they can to make sure something like Los Angeles doesn't happen again.
1.9 million acres were treated just between 2021 and 2023, 730,000 acres in calendar year 2023 alone.
524. There have been more than 4 million downloads of this new app called My Shake.
Governor Gavin Newsom says the app provides Californians with life-saving seconds before earthquakes strike. According to the governor's office, since its inception, the app has delivered more than 5 million alerts for nearly 170 earthquakes. The state is encouraging people to pair the My Shake app with the Cal OES Earthquake Readiness Guide. The app is free to download. I'm Lisa Carton.
525. Texas billionaire Dan Lebetsky says he does not like the state of politics in the U.S., so he's created an organization that's called the Builders Movement, which he says will be a place for Americans whose political views are right down the middle.
Not tell people what to think, but with tools on how to think, with curiosity, compassion, creativity, courage.
If you're a fan of Shark Tank, you'll know who Dan Lebetsky is. He's the creator of Kind Bars. And he says politicians are too often only interested in destroying the other side instead of building bridges. And he says this organization is going to try to change that.
Almost all of these issues that are used as wedges to divide us, 80% of citizens can agree on 80% of issues.
So the interesting part here is the 57-year-old says his group has already brought all sides to the table to talk gun safety, which is something that doesn't happen too often. And he says after working for 9 months together with people from all sides of the political spectrum, they came up with 9 legislative proposals they could agree on and are now going forward and pushing them in the state of Tennessee. 526. Over 7,000 cases of apple juice now being recalled.
S. Martinelli and Company says some of its apple juice has been contaminated by patulin, a toxic substance created by mold. The recall affects more than 173,000 bottles of apple juice, and the FDA says exposure to the substance could cause adverse health consequences. The World Health Organization says patulin is a poisonous substance found in rotting apples and could cause nausea and vomiting. I'm Jim Forbes.
A new study from the University of Sydney suggests bacteria and other microorganisms living in your mouth could spark migraines. Researchers asked over 150 women to fill out a questionnaire about their mouth health, along with collecting saliva samples. The researchers found incredibly strong signs connecting mouth health to migraines.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour. Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noah Layden. All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now, Talking the news with Noah on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 537. Good morning. It is Monday, April 28th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Just a beautiful day on the way. Sunshine, high 74. Tonight and overnight clear, low 55, and even warmer for Tuesday. Sun and clouds, high 79. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 52 and clear in Smithtown out on Long Island. It's 46 and clear in Edison over in New Jersey, and it's 54 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 539. Let's go out to Long Island. Petros Kromedias, a Democratic candidate vying to become a lawmaker in Nassau County's 4th District. He's missing today. Nassau police say he was last seen in Baldwin on April 23rd at 9 p.m. Police say Kromedias was wearing a camouflage print sweatshirt, gray sweatpants. He's believed to be in the Long Beach area. Of course, anybody with information about his whereabouts is asked to call the Nassau County Police. And while we're talking missing people, over the weekend we found out more about the missing Princeton University student. He was found dead, not far away from campus at all.
Lauren Blackburn, a 23-year-old undergraduate student from Indiana, was last seen Saturday at the school's Firestone Library. Princeton's Department of Public Safety began a search of Lake Carnegie Tuesday morning after a missing person's phone pinged in the area. That's where Blackburn's body was found Friday morning. That according to a letter to students from the Dean of Undergraduate Students, Regan Crotty. Crotty says their hearts are heavy and that the Princeton community must draw strength and support from one another. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New Jersey.
541. While we're in New Jersey, the wildfire destroying parts of southern New Jersey actually grew over the weekend. 15,000 acres now. It's called the Jones Road wildfire. Is about 60% contained. This was as of last night. Of course, the 19-year-old, his name is Joseph Kling. He's accused of aggravated arson in connection with starting this fire. He apparently left burning wooden pallets unattended, and they say that's what started this huge wildfire. Now, when you talk to people in some of these towns like Lacey Township, they were out this weekend thanking the firefighters because so far their homes have been well protected, and they say it's because of the Forest Fire Service that they still are able to go back home today.
We were nervous, my wife and I. What was on our mind was California, how bad it got and how far everything went, and fast there. So when they said get out, we got out.
Now, we had some of those soaking rains. I don't know if you had it where you were. I was out for dinner with my wife, and boy, it came down like crazy for a while. But apparently the northern portion of the fire received just some rain. Only a trace amount fell in the southern portions. And so, no, it wasn't much a help to this wildfire. Again, as neighbors were out and about this weekend, the smoke's still heavy down there.
They saved this whole park. I mean, if they weren't around, the way things were going on, you might not have seen any buildings here at all.
The other 2 days were horrid. Yeah, it was very scary.
Yeah, unfortunately, the next chance for rain in New Jersey, at least in this area, is not until Thursday into Friday.
This is an active situation during a time of a declared emergency. And if the winds pick up, it could take an ember somewhere, and we could be fighting it all over again.
Now, what the fire officials have told us down in that part of New Jersey is they expect they can give us an update on the firefighting progress at about noon today. 543. Let's bring it back here into the city. Speaking of fires, the FDNY doing an amazing job up in the Bronx yesterday, Concourse Village. This was early Sunday morning around 4:30 a.m. Fire breaks out inside an apartment building. People say they can't see through the smoke on the 5th floor to get downstairs.
There was a lot of panic, mayhem, screaming, confusion.
There was people asking questions about a fire. They smell smoke.
Yes, so this was, again, 4:30 in the morning, 986 Morris Avenue, right up 164th Street. And it started on the 5th floor. It took 60 firefighters and 12 units to get it under control. But these firefighters are doing what they always do, showing just how brave they are, helping these people off the 5th floor. And thank God, I mean, one person is in critical condition, but it could have been a whole lot worse.
The hallways in the 5th floor were filled with smoke. I'm hoping that everybody will come back safe.
Yeah, we're hoping the same. 544, let's go out to Brooklyn. A deli on Marcus Garvey Avenue in Bed-Stuy robbed yesterday morning in an innovative way. 4 men walk into the store. They pull out a gun. They tell the men that are working there to get onto the floor. They tell the crew that they are officers. In fact, they came in dressed as police officers. So these men are like, why are we on the floor? And why are these people apparently stealing stuff from us? This employee, who wanted to remain anonymous, says he's shocked by the crime.
They came, like, say they're in YPD. They say they're a cop. And they throw the guy on the floor.
Police say the 4 men took off with unknown items from the store. They fled in a dark color van.
I live around here a long time, and I know these people, and I never thought that they would ever get robbed like that.
Yeah, how crazy is that? I mean, it's really frightening when people start showing up dressed as police officers. It means you just can't trust anyone anymore.
I think that's really wrong. You don't know who to trust nowadays.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Police say no arrests have been made, but they do have good pictures of the wanted man. All right, 545. Let's head back to Jerusalem, and live with a sports update is Justin Ellick.
Thank you, Noam Layden. We'll start here in Detroit. Karl Anthony Towns made a go-ahead three-pointer with 46.5 seconds left and finished with 27 points. And Jalen Brunson had 32 points and 11 assists. And the Knicks beat the Pistons 94-93 to take a 3-1 lead in their first-round playoff series. Tim Hardaway Jr. shot a three-pointer just before the buzzer and drew some contact from New York's Josh Hart. That wasn't called a foul at the end of a physical game with a few whistles. David Guthrie, the crew chief for the game, said afterward that the officials made a mistake. Quote, after post-game review, we observed that Hart makes body contact that is more than marginal to Hardaway Jr. And a foul should have been called. Had the foul been called, Hardaway would have gone to the foul line for three free throws that could have given Detroit the lead. Instead, the Knicks held on to win after rallying from an 11-point deficit in the fourth quarter. Game 5 is Tuesday night in New York. And to the Diamond here out in Washington, D.C., the Mets, they fell to the Nationals 8-7, blowing a 6-run lead there. And the Yankees, they had a doubleheader against the Blue Jays at home in the Bronx, winning Game 1 11-2 in a rout, and winning Game 2 as well, sweeping that doubleheader, the final in Game 2 5-1. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 548. An NYPD cop recovering this morning after being shot in the leg in Queens yesterday morning. The incident happened in Astoria. Police say the officer was off duty at the time, was attacked by at least 2 men who boxed the officer's car. It was not his police car, but his own car. In at one point, they pulled out a gun. The motive, we're being told, was robbery.
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared.
Kind of crazy seeing all the caution tape around this whole area and a ton of police cars.
I saw a child with a lot of police. They're all the police parked down in the corner.
The officer ended up with a gunshot wound to his leg, but he's expected to recover. Police just swarmed the area and ultimately took the 2 men into custody, but they say more arrests are forthcoming. Authorities haven't said if the officer was specifically targeted or if these men who robbed him knew he was a police officer. 549, over to New Jersey, Manalapan, where police were called to a pond on Saturday afternoon when someone noticed the tip or very top of a car sticking out of the water in this pond. So police send people in there to this submerged car, and sure enough, there is a body, a dead body, inside the car. Now, neighbors say there were no tire marks around the pond, so they're not really clear what happened.
Never saw anything like that. Never saw anything like that in my life.
I was there 10 o'clock, 10:15. I didn't see nothing.
We have no idea what's going on.
Now, this was as of Sunday. Now, these are small police departments like Manalapan, so they don't have somebody available 24 hours a day to answer our questions. But as of Sunday, police have not ID'd the body and unsure how that car ended up in the water. 5:50, let's bring it back here into the city, out to Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn. Protesters at this hour living in a tented city outside a construction site there. They're trying to stop the city from building a homeless shelter there.
We are here 24 hours. They do what they do, we do what we do. We have no trust. And whatever they say, I don't want to hear it. I just want to stop it and, back to the original plan.
So the Department of Homeless Services says the shelter will house families with children, but protesters crying foul. They say they were told that affordable housing was going to be built at this site, and they say affordable housing is desperately needed in this neighborhood. They say it was bait and switch. They say the city lied to them. And so that's why you have seen these protests going on for a while. But now they're there 24 hours around the clock. And they say they'll stop any sort of construction workers from doing their job to stop the shelter from being built. 5:51 out to Long Island, Shoreham, Long Island. A beloved Long Island elementary school teacher and high school soccer coach has passed away 2 days after suffering some sort of traumatic medical episode in front of students. 48-year-old Adrian Gilmore was a 6th grade teacher in Shoreham.
It's very sad. I mean, it came out of nowhere. I feel sorry for her family. It's sad.
Now, no word what caused that medical episode. She leaves behind a husband and 3 kids. 5:51, lots of talk about helicopters in the sky over New Jersey and Manhattan. People trying to look at the skyline, fly over the Statue of Liberty. But, of course, the talk has increased big time since that helicopter crash a number of weeks ago in the Hudson that killed an entire family from Spain, along with the helicopter pilot. The city council has passed a bill that cracks down on the commercial helicopter industry. The measure, known as Intro 26A, passed at the end of the week with 46-1. So they want to sort of rein this all in, but they're not going to stop the helicopters from flying in the air. The legislation bans non-essential chopper, luxury, and tourism flights from the city-run East 34th Street and downtown Manhattan heliports. And they are going to do that until they meet strict noise standards, but they're going to give them a number of years to do that. So you're going to still see these helicopters in the sky.
Intro 26 is personal. It's personal for the residents of Manhattan, Queens, and Brooklyn who live directly in the common flight paths. It's personal for the families who've lost sleep, peace of mind, and in some cases their health to the constant disruption of non-essential helicopter noise.
Now, somebody who lives me along the Hudson, I can tell you it's just all day long. Sometimes I feel like these helicopters are landing on my roof. The house just shakes like crazy of these tourists who are there to see the New York City skyline. So I'm part of the crew, I guess I should tell you outright, who would like to see these helicopters go away.
The noise pollution degrades our quality of life, as well as reducing our property values. So we do hope that this will be a first step towards a total ban of these non-essentials.
Yeah, it would be nice if they just flew a little bit higher so they wouldn't shake our whole neighborhood. New Jersey Transit engineers, they are threatening to walk off the job on May 16th. Upset over salaries they say are much lower than those who do the same job at Amtrak and Metro North. And we've been talking about this walk up to the strike for about a year now. But now these engineers say they think it really could happen.
Our base pay is actually under $89,000 a year. We haven't seen an increase since 2019. Most are leaving for Amtrak, for Metro North, for the Long Island Railroad.
Yeah, they say the salary is much better there. So the starting salary now for New Jersey Transit engineers is $89,000 a year. But they say at Amtrak, Metro North, LIRR, it's a whole lot higher. But riders are watching this after they just got a big increase in their fare. And they're saying, wait a minute, you're going to stop my train ride to work? I don't know what I'm going to do.
No, I haven't. And it's actually going to be a
good long conversation between me and my wife because we have only one car.
Yeah, there would, of course, be just a huge disruption. The last time engineers went on strike, you have to go all the way back to 1983. 5:55. Well, this is a crazy story out of Long Island. The Justice Department is accusing a beekeeper on Long Island of lying on his green card. That's not the shocking part. And allegedly concealing his role in the Rwandan genocide of 1994. It's almost like a Nazi moving to Argentina after the Holocaust, after World War II. Well, that's what this guy did. Faustin Nabrowski, charged with visa fraud and attempted naturalization fraud. And he was living what seemed to be a pretty good life on Long Island. And now people there, this is in the Bridgehampton area, are happy to hear this guy is in custody.
That's insane. That's nuts.
If he really did it, I'm glad that that he was got.
And I imagine, just like some of the Nazis who moved to Argentina after World War II, people who knew this guy say he was an okay guy, even though he was involved in the genocide in Rwanda.
Not surprised at all. I mean, you can come out here, when they say Montauk, the end, you can come out here and disappear.
Well,
you really
did.
can.
And I should point, allegedly involved in the genocide in Rwanda. 5:56 out on Long Island, an event dubbed as the largest police parade in the nation took place yesterday. Nassau County Police Department celebrating its 100th anniversary. The county executive, Bruce Blakeman, and Police Commissioner Patrick Ryder leading this parade. And they say this was a huge crowd on a Sunday afternoon in April. Maybe 70,000 people showed up for this parade, all there to salute Nassau County police officers.
Oh, it was an amazing day. I can't support that everybody came to support
the Nassau County Police, 100 years.
And these guys deserve it.
They did an amazing job.
And they deserve whatever they get. I mean, for them to put their lives out on the line and what they do for a living is unsurmountable. I couldn't do that in my life, but God bless them.
I'm so happy with the turnout.
Yeah, it was amazing. About 250 police motorcycles, vehicles, hundreds of current and former police officers marching.
It makes me feel great. It also makes me feel strong about myself for all the service I did for doing a career in the Marines and for this country, and to see that people are still here trying to help protect us.
It meant a lot to me, being a Nassau County police officer and a detective. That was my life. It was my career. The county's been very good to me. And you know what? Nassau County is the safest county in the United States. And Nassau County Police Department should be proud of that.
Yeah, nice job done by Nassau County saluting those officers.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?